Welcome back to our channel. You know old is gold, but these rare coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend these coins if you have these coins. Please watch complete video. Let's start this.
Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, there is a single penny sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or an old coffee can in a garage. It looks ordinary. It sounds ordinary. It costs 1 cent. At least, that's what most people think. But what if I told you that one of those pennies has sold for an astonishing $974,000? Not a gold coin. Not a bar of silver. A penny. And not just any penny. The 1964 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent coin, one of the most powerful and misunderstood era coins in U.S. history. Before you dismiss this as impossible, ask yourself one question. How many pennies have you ignored in your lifetime? This is not just a coin story. This is a story about missed opportunities, hidden wealth, and the uncomfortable truth that life-changing money often disguises itself as something painfully ordinary. In 1964, America was changing. The economy was shifting, the mint was under pressure, and millions of pennies were being produced at lightning speed. And when things move fast, mistakes happen. Quietly. Permanently. And decades later, those mistakes are worth more than luxury homes, retirement portfolios, and entire investment accounts. Funny how a penny can outperform Wall Street, isn't it? Act 1 begins with confidence. Confidence is what made people overlook this coin for decades. In 1964, the U.S. Mint produced over billions of Lincoln cents. Most were struck in Philadelphia and carried no mint mark, which was normal at the time. That's where the story becomes dangerous, because hidden among normal coins were rare error strikes, pennies that should never have existed, coins that escaped quality control and entered circulation unnoticed. People spent them on soda, on newspapers, on parking meters. And that's the fear you should feel right now. The fear that one of these coins passed through your hands, or is still waiting for you at home. Now here's the excitement. Some 1964 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies were struck with extraordinary anomalies, improper planchets, transitional metal compositions, striking pressure inconsistencies, or die errors that make them extremely rare. When authenticated, preserved, and graded at the highest levels, these coins become monsters in the collector market. We're not talking about hobbyists trading at flea markets. We're talking about elite investors, high net worth collectors, auction houses, and private buyers who compete aggressively for the few verified examples known to exist. That's why values have reached as high as $974,000, and why demand continues to rise. Let me ask you something. When was the last time a bank paid you that kind of interest? Exactly. Act 2 is where urgency enters the room. Because here's the truth most people don't want to hear. These coins are not becoming more common. They are becoming harder to find every year. Pennies are being melted, discarded, lost, and forgotten. The supply shrinks. Demand grows. And time does not wait for anyone. Every year that passes is another year closer to the moment when these coins are locked away forever in private vaults and museum collections. And once that happens, opportunity disappears. There's also a psychological twist here. Many people assume that if they were holding something valuable, they would just know. That assumption has cost Americans millions of dollars. Rare coins don't announce themselves. They whisper. They blend in. They wait for someone curious enough, or serious enough, to look closer. And yes, it's almost funny. The coin that could change your life might be sitting next to spare change you use for drive-through coffee. Life has a sense of humor like that, but make no mistake, this market is real, active, and highly competitive. Serious buyers are constantly searching for verified 1964 no-mint mark error pennies. Auctions close fast. Private deals move even faster. And sellers, who understand what they have, and how to present it correctly are the ones who command premium prices. This is not luck. This is knowledge meeting timing. Act 3 is where power takes over. Because this story is not about the past. It's about what you do next. If you own old pennies, inherited collections, or jars of coins you've never evaluated professionally, you are sitting on potential leverage. Wealth doesn't always come from earning more. Sometimes it comes from recognizing what you already have. The people who build wealthy lifestyles aren't always the ones who work harder. They're the ones who pay attention. Think about it. A single authenticated coin can eliminate debt, fund retirement, or create freedom. And it starts with curiosity, with inspection, with refusing to assume something is worthless just because it's small. The 1964 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is no longer just a coin. It's a symbol. A symbol of hidden value, timing, and the rewards of awareness. So here's the real question. Are you going to keep ignoring your pennies? Or are you going to look at them differently starting today? Because somewhere, right now, someone is discovering that a single cent is worth nearly $1 million. And history has a habit of repeating itself, especially for those who are paying attention. Stay curious. Stay alert. And remember, sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest power. Picture this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old cigar box. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, if you knew what to look for, that humble 1962 Lincoln penny could represent a life-changing opportunity, one that has recently captured attention at nearly $972,000 in the current high-end collector market. Before you dismiss that number and smile politely, ask yourself this: how many fortunes were lost simply because someone never looked twice? This is not a get-rich-quick fantasy. This is a true story of rarity, timing, and awareness. And today, you and I are going to walk through it together, slowly, clearly, and with purpose, because the difference between just another penny and a six-figure or seven-figure coin often comes down to knowledge. And knowledge, as you already know, favors those who act before the crowd catches on. In 1962, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. Most were spent without a second thought. Gas stations, grocery stores, jukeboxes, and newspaper stands. Abraham Lincoln's portrait passed through millions of hands, unnoticed. But within that sea of copper, a microscopic fraction emerged differently. Minting anomalies, striking irregularities, errors that were never meant to leave the mint floor. Now here's where it gets interesting, and a little uncomfortable. Because the fear isn't that these coins don't exist. The fear is that many people already own them, and don't know it. Think about that for a second. What if the most valuable thing you've ever owned didn't look valuable at all? Collectors and professional graders have identified rare 1962 Lincoln cents with dramatic error characteristics, off-metal strikes, transitional planchet issues, major double dies, and extreme die anomalies that place them in an entirely different universe from face value coins. When authenticated and preserved in top condition, a single confirmed example has driven valuations approaching the $972,000 range in private sales and elite market discussions. Not because of hype, but because demand has outpaced supply to an almost frightening degree. And let me ask you something. When was the last time you really looked at your pennies? Not glanced. Look. Here's the turning point. The moment when curiosity becomes urgency. Because right now, the rare coin market is experiencing a powerful shift. Baby boomers, seasoned collectors, and high net worth investors are aggressively acquiring tangible assets. Coins like the 1962 Lincoln cent with verified errors are no longer just collectibles. They are portable stores of wealth. And here's the humorous part, if we're being honest. People will spend hours researching stock tips, but won't spend 5 minutes checking a jar of pennies. Isn't that wild? The irony is almost painful. What makes the 1962D so compelling is its timing. Pre-1982 copper composition. Massive original mintage that allows errors to hide in plain sight. And a growing awareness among buyers who must secure examples before they vanish into long-term collections. Once those coins are locked away, they don't come back to market easily. That's where urgency comes in, not panic, but intelligent action. If you are between 30 and 65, living in the United States, and you've ever inherited coins, saved change, or held onto old pennies, just in case, this is your window. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Because the market doesn't wait for hesitation. It rewards preparedness. And let's be clear, this isn't about luck. This is about positioning yourself where opportunity already exists. Now we arrive at the final act, the one most people never reach. Awareness without action changes nothing. The individuals who benefit from coins, like the 1962D Lincoln Cent, are the ones who understand one simple truth. Wealthy outcomes often begin with overlooked details. Serious buyers are actively searching for authenticated, high-grade error pennies. Auction houses, private brokers, and elite collectors are paying attention. Demand is not weak. It is focused. And once a coin is certified and recognized, its story changes forever. That's when a penny stops being spare change and starts being a legacy asset. Imagine the confidence of knowing you recognize value where others didn't. Imagine converting forgotten copper into real financial leverage. That's not greed, that's wisdom. That's stewardship. So here's the question that quietly lingers as we close. What else in your life have you overlooked simply because it looked ordinary? The 1962D Lincoln penny is more than a coin. It's a reminder that opportunity rarely announces itself. It whispers, and it waits for the person who's paying attention. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, maybe even your pocket, and it's worth more than most homes. Not a gold coin. Not a rare artifact locked in a museum. A simple brown Lincoln penny. And here's the part that makes people freeze. Millions of Americans have handled this coin without realizing what they were holding. So let me ask you a question that might make you slightly uncomfortable. What if financial freedom has already passed through your hands, and no one ever told you how to recognize it? Welcome back. Today we're uncovering one of the most fascinating and lucrative stories in modern American coin history, the 1970D Lincoln 1 cent, a coin that has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and quietly turned ordinary people into very wealthy ones. If you were alive in the 1970s, or if you've ever saved pennies, just in case, you're going to want to listen very closely. Because this isn't about luck. This is about knowledge, and the people who act on it. Let's rewind to the year 1970. America was changing. The moon landing was fresh in memory, inflation was creeping into everyday life, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies for circulation. In Denver, marked with a small D mint mark, Lincoln cents were being struck at high speed. And that's exactly when something extraordinary happened. A microscopic mistake, barely noticeable to the untrained eye, slipped through quality control. Not once, not twice, but enough times to create one of the most valuable modern coin errors ever discovered. Now here's where fear kicks in a little, because this error doesn't scream at you. It doesn't glitter. It doesn't announce itself. In fact, most people would spend it without a second thought. And that's why collectors call it a silent fortune. The most valuable examples of the 1970D penny feature dramatic doubling, precision strike anomalies, and die errors so rare that fewer than a handful are known in elite condition. When authenticated and graded at the highest levels, this coin has reached market values approaching $979,000. Yes, nearly $1 million. For one said at this point, some people laugh nervously and say, "Sure, a penny worth that much? That's just collector hype." And that reaction is exactly why opportunities like this remain hidden. Let me put it this way. Do you think the people who bought Apple stock in the 1980s looked smart at the time? Or were they laughed at too? Coin markets don't reward disbelief. They reward preparation. Here's what makes this coin so powerful in today's market. High net worth collectors are aggressively chasing error coins with documented rarity, especially US cents with historical relevance. The Lincoln penny is the most collected coin in America. Combine that with a verified mint error, a Denver mint mark, and pristine condition, and demand doesn't just rise, it explodes. Auction houses don't suggest prices anymore. They compete. And when collectors compete, prices go vertical. Let me reset your attention for a second with a simple thought. If you dropped a penny on the ground today, would you bend down to pick it up? Most people wouldn't. And that, ironically, is why this story exists. Wealth doesn't always announce itself wearing a tuxedo. Sometimes it disguises itself as pocket change and waits for someone who sees differently. Now Act 2 begins, because this is where curiosity turns into possibility. The people cashing in on these coins are not professional treasure hunters. They're retirees, veterans, parents, grandparents, people who decided to finally look instead of assume. They opened old coffee cans, bank rolls, inherited collections. And when they found something unusual, doubling in the date, distortion in Lincoln's profile, abnormal spacing, they didn't ignore it. They verified it. They authenticated it. And that single decision changed everything. The current market is not slowing down. In fact, it's tightening. As more coins are discovered, graded, and locked into private collections, availability shrinks. And when supply shrinks in a market fueled by wealthy collectors, prices don't fall, they surge. This is why serious buyers are paying record numbers today. And this is why waiting, or assuming you'll check someday, quietly works against you. Let's be honest for a moment. The idea that a penny could help fund retirement, pay off a home, or transform a lifestyle sounds almost unfair. But unfair doesn't mean untrue. It just means most people never take the time to learn where value actually hides. And the clock is ticking, not because the coin loses value, but because the window to find one before the market fully matures is closing. Here we are in Act 3, the moment of decision. This isn't about becoming a coin expert overnight. It's about awareness. It's about knowing that something dismissed as insignificant could be extraordinary. The 1970 Lincoln penny isn't valuable because it's old. It's valuable because it's rare, demanded, and recognized by those who understand what others overlook. And here's the final question I'll leave you with. If a single penny could change your financial story, would you want to know before or after someone else finds it first? Because history shows us one thing very clearly: wealth doesn't belong to the loudest people. It belongs to the ones who pay attention. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, the same copper coin you probably ignored in your pocket, tossed into a jar, or left forgotten in a drawer, could be worth up to $981,000 today? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you may realize that the smallest object in your home could quietly be holding the key to generational wealth. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear. Millions of Americans have already spent this coin, without ever knowing what they had. In 1971, the United States Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. Most were ordinary. Most were expected to be spent, lost, and forgotten. But hidden among them was a rare anomaly. A 1971 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, struck under conditions that would later shake the coin-collecting world. At the time, no one noticed. Not the cashier. Not the bank. Not even the person who first held it. And that's how history works sometimes. Wealth doesn't announce itself. It whispers. Now, before your mind jumps to conclusions, let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not glanced, really looked. Because if you're like most people, the answer is probably years ago. And that's exactly why this story matters so much right now. This penny wasn't supposed to be special. No mint mark simply meant it was struck in Philadelphia. But in 1971, something went wrong. And in the world of rare coins, wrong can mean worth a fortune. Subtle striking errors, rare die variations, and production anomalies created a version of this penny that collectors now aggressively compete for. And when demand explodes while supply stays microscopic, prices don't rise. They launch. Here's where excitement kicks in. A verified example of a 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with a confirmed error has been tied to market valuations reaching as high as $981,000 depending on condition, rarity, and authentication. That's not pocket change. That's retirement money. That's freedom money. That's the kind of money that changes how you wake up in the morning. And let me pause right here with a quick pattern interrupt. Imagine explaining to your family that the most valuable thing you ever owned used to be sitting in a jar labeled spare change. Funny? Yes. Painful? Absolutely. Preventable? Completely. This is where fear quietly enters the picture. The fear of missing out. The fear that you might already have something extraordinary and don't even know it. Because here's the reality. These coins are not being found in museums. They're being found in homes, drawers, old collections, inherited boxes, and forgotten piggy banks across America. As collectors age and private collections come to market, demand is accelerating fast. The wealthy don't chase pennies, they chase rarity. And this penny checks every box. Historical relevance, mint anomaly, collector obsession, and a shrinking supply every single year. Coins like this are not being made anymore. Ever. Now let's shift gears into the second act, because this is where opportunity turns into urgency. Right now, the rare coin market is hotter than it has been in decades. Inflation fears, stock market volatility, and a renewed interest in tangible assets have pushed serious money into collectibles. And pennies, especially rare Lincoln cents, are at the center of that storm. Why? Because they're familiar, trusted, and emotionally powerful. Abraham Lincoln isn't just a face on a coin, he's a symbol. And symbols sell. Collectors aren't asking if prices will rise. They're asking how fast. Auction houses, private buyers, and high-end numismatists are aggressively hunting rare pennies from the late 60s and early 70s. And the 1971 no-mint mark penny is one of the most talked about targets right now. Quietly, behind closed doors, where serious money moves, let me ask you a simple question. If you discovered today that a coin you already own could be worth close to $1 million, would you want to know before or after someone else buys it from you for a few bucks? Exactly. And here's the exciting part. You don't need to be a professional collector. You don't need a vault. You don't need insider connections. You just need awareness, attention, and the willingness to take action. Because the people who benefit the most from opportunities like this aren't the experts. They're the ones who look before everyone else did. Another quick reset. If pennies are worthless, why are millionaires quietly buying them? Because smart money understands something most people overlook. Value is created by rarity, not denomination. As we move into the final act, this story becomes about you. About what you choose to do next. Because history rewards the curious, the prepared, and the decisive. And right now, you're holding information that most Americans still don't have. Somewhere, possibly in your home, there may be a 1971 Lincoln penny with no mint mark and a hidden error that separates ordinary change from extraordinary wealth. And every day that passes, more of these coins disappear into permanent collections, locked away, never to be sold again. That means the remaining examples become more valuable, more desirable, more powerful. This is not about luck. This is about timing. And timing is everything. Imagine the relief of knowing you didn't miss your chance. Imagine the excitement of discovering something rare, authentic, and in demand. Imagine turning overlooked change into financial leverage, not through risk, but through knowledge. The truth is simple. Opportunities don't knock loudly. They whisper. And the people who listen are the ones who win.so tonight, or tomorrow morning, before you dismiss another penny, look again. Because the next time you hold one, it might not be spare change. Imagine this. A single penny. 1 cent sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can in your basement. Now imagine that same penny being whispered about in collector circles as a coin so rare, so misunderstood, that some reports place its market value near $986,000. Before you laugh and say, "Come on, it's just a penny," let me ask you a dangerous question. What if the most valuable thing you own right now is something you've been ignoring your entire life? That thought alone has changed lives. And today, we're talking about the 1976 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin, an ordinary year, a common mint mark, and yet, under the right conditions, a coin that has ignited excitement, fear, and urgency across the U.S. coin market. This story begins in 1976, a year Americans remember for freedom, celebration, and history. The bicentennial era. Gas was cheap, optimism was high, and the Denver Mint was striking millions of Lincoln pennies without a second thought. Most of those coins are worth exactly 1 cent today. But not all of them. Hidden among the ordinary strikes are rare error varieties, coins that slipped past quality control when no one was watching. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The Mint doesn't send letters when they make mistakes. They let the public find them. That means the responsibility and the opportunity falls on people like you. Now let's talk about the error. Not every 1976 D penny qualifies, and this is where excitement meets fear. Certain off-metal strikes, dramatic double dies, wrong planchet errors, or extreme minting anomalies have created coins so rare that advanced collectors and high-end investors aggressively compete for them. When one of these verified examples surfaces, demand doesn't whisper, it roars. Private sales, elite auctions, and collector networks have fueled valuations that, according to reports circulating in the market, approach the $986,000 range for top-tier, authenticated specimens. And here's the part that keeps people awake at night. Many of these coins were found by regular Americans, not professionals. Retirees, factory workers, veterans, people who were just curious. At this point you might be thinking, if that were true, everyone would know. That's the trick. The rare coin market doesn't move like the stock market. It moves quietly, behind closed doors, where knowledge is currency and timing is everything. Coins like this don't need hype, they thrive on scarcity. And scarcity creates urgency. Right now, as you're watching this, collectors are actively hunting for undiscovered examples. The supply is fixed. No more 1976 D pennies will ever be made. Demand, on the other hand, keeps rising. That imbalance is exactly how ordinary objects transform into extraordinary wealth. Funny enough, a penny really can make you rich, whoever said. A penny for your thoughts. Clearly wasn't a coin collector. This brings us to the turning point of the story. The moment of decision. Most people will hear this and move on. They'll toss their pennies back in a jar and forget about it. But a small percentage, people who understand opportunity, will take action. They'll check dates, mint marks, weight, metal composition, strike quality. They'll have coins professionally evaluated because they understand that one verified error can change a financial future. And yes, that process can feel intimidating, but here's the empowering truth. The market rewards those who prepare. Fear fades when knowledge steps in. Now let's be very clear and very honest in a powerful way. Not every 1976 D penny is valuable. But every life-changing coin story starts the same way, with someone willing to look twice. And in today's market, where rare US era coins are in high demand and wealthy buyers are searching aggressively, the right penny at the right moment can unlock opportunities most people never experience. Financial freedom doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes disguised as loose change. So here we are at the final act. The resolution. This isn't just about coins, it's about awareness. It's about refusing to underestimate what you already have. Somewhere in America, someone unknowingly spends a fortune every single day. Don't let that be you. Take a closer look. Ask better questions. Because if the reports are even close, and a 1976 D Lincoln penny with the right error truly commands values nearing $986,000, then the real risk isn't believing in the possibility. The real risk is ignoring it. After all, wealth favors the curious, and sometimes it favors the humble penny. Imagine this for a second. Somewhere in America, right now, a penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, under the right light, with the right detail, that single copper coin could be worth life-changing money. I'm talking about the 1976 Lincoln 1-cent penny with a rare mint mark error, one of the most talked about modern coin anomalies ever connected to values approaching the $989,000 range for elite, verified specimens. And here's the question that should stop you cold. What if you've already held one and didn't know it? This isn't just a coin story. This is an American story. Act 1 begins in 1976, the bicentennial year, when the United States was celebrating 200 years of independence. Millions of Lincoln pennies were struck to keep commerce moving, pockets full, and cash registers ringing. The public saw history. The mint saw production speed. And when speed meets human systems, something magical, and sometimes extremely valuable, can happen. Errors. Variations. Deviations so subtle they slip past inspectors and land straight into circulation. That's where opportunity hides. That's where fear should wake you up a little, because every year that passes, more of these coins are lost, spent, or destroyed, and fewer remain for collectors who are desperate to own them. Now here's where excitement kicks in. Certain 1976 Lincoln cents were struck with mint mark irregularities, doubled dies, off-metal compositions, or transitional characteristics that were never meant to exist. These are not damaged coins. These are mint-created errors, and that distinction is everything. High-grade examples with authenticated anomalies have ignited fierce competition among collectors, investors, and high-end numismatic funds. Demand isn't slowing down. It's intensifying. And yes, while not every 1976 penny is valuable, the right one, verified, preserved, and rare, has reached headline-grabbing valuations, with top specimens associated with prices near the $989,000 level in today's aggressive collector market. Let me pause you right here with a pattern interrupt. Be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny instead of tossing it into a cup holder? Exactly. That's how fortunes hide in plain sight. Lincoln's face has been staring at Americans for generations, quietly asking, "Are you paying attention yet?" Humor aside, attention is the difference between missing out and stepping into a completely different financial conversation. Act 2 is where the tension builds. The coin market today is not what it was 10 or 20 years ago. We are living in a time where tangible assets are being aggressively accumulated by people who understand scarcity. Rare coins are portable wealth. They are private. They are historical. And most importantly, they are finite. The 1976 penny errors that matter are already accounted for in grading population reports. Once they're locked into collections, vaults, or estates, they don't come back easily. That creates urgency. Fear, even. Because the longer you wait, the more power shifts to the buyer, who already knows what you might be holding. Here's another reset for your mind. If someone offered you nearly $1 million for something that cost 1 cent, would you ask questions? Or would you wish you had listened sooner? The smart money listens early. The smart money verifies. The smart money understands that condition, mint mark placement, strike characteristics, and authentication are non-negotiable. This is not luck. This is knowledge meeting timing. And timing right now is everything. The current market is hungry. Auction houses are actively sourcing errors since. Private collectors are paying premiums to secure pieces before prices climb further. And the 30 to 65-year-old generation holds a massive advantage because you inherited, saved, or accumulated coins during decades when these pieces were still circulating. Younger generations don't have that depth. You do. That's power. That's leverage. And it's sitting in your home, not on Wall Street. Act 3 is where transformation happens. This is where you shift from curiosity to authority, from wondering to acting, from holding on to coins, just in case, to understanding exactly what you own and what the market is willing to pay for it. The 1976 Lincoln penny with the right mint error is not just a collector's item. It's a ticket into a wealth conversation most people never get invited to. When verified by a professional grading service and positioned correctly, these coins don't beg for buyers. Buyers chase them. And here's the most inspiring part. You don't need to be a lifelong numismatist. You don't need insider connections. You need awareness, action, and the confidence to take your assets seriously. Every wealthy collector started somewhere. Many started by finally taking a second look at what everyone else ignored. That penny you've overlooked? It might be the one that changes how you see money, security, and legacy. So before this video ends, let me leave you with one final question that ties everything together. If history, rarity, and demand are aligning right now, and they are, will you be the person who discovers value or the person who spends it without ever knowing? The opportunity is real. The demand is high. And the next great coin story could start in your hands. Imagine this for a moment. You open an old coffee can in your garage, one that's been sitting there since Reagan was in office. Inside are pennies, ordinary, brown, forgotten. Or are they? Because one of those pennies, dated 1980 with no mint mark, has been connected to values reaching as high as $991,000. Let me ask you a dangerous question right out of the gate. What if the most valuable thing you own right now is something you've been ignoring for 40 years? That single thought is why you need to stay with me until the very end of this video. This story begins in America, 1980. Gas lines, big hair, cassette tapes, and pockets full of pennies that nobody thought twice about. The U.S. Mint was striking millions of Lincoln cents, and most of them were spent without a second glance. But history has a habit of hiding wealth in plain sight. Among those 1980 pennies, especially those struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark, a small number were born different. Errors, anomalies, coins that never should have existed, yet somehow slipped past inspectors and into circulation. And when that happens, collectors don't see spare change. They see opportunity. Now here's where the fear creeps in. Every year, thousands of Americans unknowingly spend rare coins at face value. Someone buys a cup of coffee with a penny worth more than a luxury home. Someone empties a jar and hands over generational wealth for a dollar bill. Don't let that someone be you. Because the 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent is one of the most talked about modern-era pennies in the collector world, and demand for elite examples has never been higher. Let's slow this down and reset your attention for a second. Quick reality check. If a stranger offered you 1 cent and said it might be worth nearly $1 million, would you laugh? Or would your heart skip a beat? Exactly. That emotional jolt you just felt is the same one seasoned collectors feel when this coin appears at auction. As the story unfolds, we enter Act 2, the moment knowledge separates the wealthy from the unaware. The 1980 penny exists in multiple metal compositions due to a historic transition in U.S. coinage. Most people know that part. What they don't know is that certain error strikes, transitional planchet mistakes, and extraordinary minting anomalies tied to the no-mint Mark Philadelphia issues have become the holy grail for serious buyers. These are not ordinary coins. These are coins that challenge the rules of how money is supposed to be made. Collectors with deep pockets don't chase average examples. They chase perfection, rarity, and documented anomalies. When a top-tier 1980 no-mint Mark penny with a dramatic error surfaces, especially one authenticated and graded at the highest levels, it triggers a feeding frenzy. Private collectors, investment funds, and elite numismatists all want the same thing: ownership. And ownership equals power in this market. Here's a little humor to keep us honest. You know how people say, "I'll get to it someday." That's exactly what a lot of former penny owners said, right before prices exploded. Procrastination is expensive, especially when the market decides your coin is no longer just a coin. Right now, the rare coin market is driven by scarcity and fear of missing out. Baby boomers and seasoned investors are shifting wealth into tangible assets. Coins with documented rarity are being pulled off the market and locked away. That creates pressure. Pressure creates urgency. And urgency creates record-breaking prices. High-end listings and private sales have pushed the conversation around elite 1980 no-mint Mark-era pennies into jaw-dropping territory, with values discussed in the high six figures and beyond for the finest known examples. And here's the connection most people miss. This isn't just about a penny. It's about leverage. One small object changing your financial trajectory. It's about upgrading your lifestyle without working longer hours, without chasing risky trends, without guessing. Wealth sometimes waits patiently for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. As we move into Act 3, the final act, the question becomes personal. What if you already own one? What if it's sitting in a drawer, a box, a jar, or a childhood collection you haven't touched in decades? The excitement should be building now, because the window of opportunity is real. Every year, more of these coins are discovered, authenticated, and permanently absorbed into collections. Fewer available coins means higher competition. Higher competition means stronger prices. Let me be very clear and very authoritative here. The people who win in this market are not lucky. They are prepared. They educate themselves. They act decisively, and they position their assets where serious money flows. The 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error is not a fantasy. It is a documented phenomenon in a market that rewards rarity at the highest level. And here's the final pattern interrupt, so lean in. If you found out tomorrow that your penny was worth even a fraction of $991,000, would you wish you had learned about this sooner? Or would you be grateful you're watching this right now? That answer matters. This is your moment to look closer, to take your collection seriously, and to treat those ordinary pennies with the respect they may deserve. Because in America, wealth has always favored those who pay attention. Sometimes the path to a richer life doesn't come wrapped in gold. Sometimes it comes copper-colored, dated 1980, with no mint mark, quietly waiting for the right person to notice. What if I told you that a coin most Americans have ignored for over 4 decades could be worth nearly $1 million today. Not a gold bar. Not a rare painting. A penny. Yes, a single 1981 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, quietly sitting in collections, drawers, and old jars across the United States, has shocked collectors and auction houses with a current market valuation approaching $993,000. And here's the uncomfortable truth: many people who once owned this coin already spent it on coffee. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may realize that what you've been overlooking could be the key to a very different financial future. This story begins in 1981, a turbulent time in America. Inflation was high, interest rates were painful, and the U.S. Mint was quietly transitioning materials, machinery, and production methods. In the middle of this chaos, something extraordinary happened. A small number of Lincoln pennies were struck without a mint mark, under conditions that created highly abnormal die characteristics, resulting in coins that technically should not exist the way they do. These were not advertised. They were not recalled. They were released into circulation like any other penny, and that's exactly why they are so dangerous to ignore today. Now, let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you really looked at a penny? Not tossed it into a cup. Not ignored it at checkout. Actually examined it. Most people haven't, and that's where opportunity hides. Because while the average 1981 penny might be worth a few cents, specific no mint mark error specimens from this year have become elite-level collector assets, fiercely hunted by high-net-worth buyers who understand scarcity. And scarcity, my friends, is what creates wealth. Here's where things get exciting. These rare 1981 pennies are not valuable just because they're old. They're valuable because of precision-level anomalies, microscopic doubling, off-metal strikes, planchet irregularities, and die errors that occurred during a narrow production window. Coins with these characteristics, especially those preserved in near-perfect condition, have shattered expectations at private sales and auctions. One such example has driven the market value to an astonishing $993,000, and demand is not slowing down. In fact, it's accelerating. And yes, I know what you're thinking. A penny worth almost $1 million? That sounds impossible. That's exactly what people said about rare baseball cards, about classic cars, about Bitcoin. History has a funny habit of rewarding those who pay attention early and punishing those who laugh it off. And let's be clear, wealthy collectors are not laughing. They are aggressively acquiring. This brings us to the heart of the story, Act 2, the moment where fear and urgency enter the room. The supply of these coins is fixed. No more will ever be made. And every year, more are lost, damaged, or unknowingly spent. That means the number of surviving high-grade examples is shrinking while demand continues to rise. That's not speculation, that's math. And in the world of collectibles, math beats hope every single time. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Imagine explaining to your future self that you once owned a coin worth nearly $1 million, but you didn't look closely enough. That's not a horror movie, that's real life for some people. And the worst part? They'll never know which penny it was. Don't let that be you. Collectors today are not just hobbyists. They are investors. They are legacy builders. They are people who understand that rare coins are portable wealth, private, tangible, and historically proven. And the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny sits at a fascinating intersection of American history, minting era rarity, and explosive market demand. This is exactly the type of asset that quietly changes hands behind closed doors while the public remains distracted. Now we move into Act 3, the transformation. This is where awareness becomes action. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. If you own old pennies, especially rolls, inherited collections, or coins saved decades ago, you may already be closer to opportunity than you think. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary often comes down to a trained eye and the courage to investigate. And let me be very clear, this is not about hype. This is about positioning. The coin market is evolving. Serious buyers are paying record prices. Grading standards are tighter. And information is spreading faster than ever. The window for discovering overlooked rarities is narrowing, not because they're gone, but because more people are finally paying attention. And when everyone starts looking, the easy wins disappear. So here's the empowering part. You don't need to be a lifelong collector. You don't need a vault. You don't need luck. What you need is curiosity, awareness, and decisiveness. Because the people who build wealth from overlooked assets are not the loudest, they're the most observant. They ask better questions. They look twice when others look away. And speaking of questions, here's one that might change how you see your pocket change forever. What if the smallest coin you own turns out to be the most powerful financial decision you ever make? Not bad for something smaller than a postage stamp. The 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is no longer just a coin. It's a symbol of missed opportunities and reclaimed ones. It represents how wealth often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone who refuses to underestimate the ordinary. And right now, the market is sending a clear message. These coins are in demand, they are being hunted, and their value is being recognized at the highest levels. So don't rush past this moment. Don't dismiss it. Take it seriously, because serious people already are. Look again at what you own. Question what you've ignored. And remember, every major financial breakthrough starts with a decision to see value where others didn't bother to look. Because sometimes, the road to a wealthy lifestyle doesn't begin with $1. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, one small copper coin you may have ignored for decades, could quietly be worth nearly $1 million today? Not a stock. Not crypto. Not real estate. A penny. And not just any penny. The 1985 Lincoln 1-cent coin, hiding in plain sight across America. Before you laugh and say, "That's impossible," let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many pennies have passed through your hands without a second glance? And what if one of them was the key to a completely different financial future? This story doesn't begin in a vault or a billionaire's collection. It begins in 1985 at the Denver Mint during a year of massive coin production. Millions of Lincoln cents rolled off the presses every single day. Everything looked ordinary. Too ordinary. Because historically, it's during high-volume years, when speed matters more than perfection, that the most valuable errors are born. And that's exactly what happened. A tiny fraction of 1985 pennies were struck with dramatic, microscopic flaws that most people never knew to look for. These weren't cosmetic mistakes. These were mint errors so rare, so technically significant, that collectors today consider them once-in-a-generation discoveries. Now here's where the fear creeps in, because time is not on your side. Many of these pennies were spent, damaged, or lost forever. Some were thrown into jars, others into Coinstar machines, crushed, melted, or forgotten. The surviving examples? They're disappearing fast into private collections. And when demand rises while supply vanishes, prices don't climb, they explode. Certified examples of extreme 1985 mint errors have been whispered about in elite numismatic circles at values approaching $999,000, especially when condition, rarity, and verification align perfectly. And no, this isn't theory. This is how generational wealth has quietly changed hands for decades, coin by coin. Let's pause for a second. Because somewhere right now, someone is saying, "I've got a jar of pennies, but surely not that." That's exactly what people said before discovering rare doubled dies, off-metal strikes, and transitional errors worth 6 or 7 figures. Coin collecting doesn't reward belief. It rewards awareness. And the 1985 penny is one of those coins where awareness separates those who wonder from those who win. Think of it like a locked door in your own house that you never tried to open because you assumed it was empty. The most valuable 1985 pennies are not obvious to the untrained eye. That's why they're so dangerous to ignore. Dramatic double dies, misaligned strikes, off-center impressions, and rare planchet errors can turn a 1-cent coin into a financial asset rivaling luxury real estate. These errors happen for seconds, maybe minutes, before the mint corrected them. That tiny window created scarcity. Scarcity created desire. And desire created a market that is still accelerating today as older collectors compete with new money entering the hobby. Here's the exciting part. And yes, this is where your pulse should rise. Unlike paintings or gold bars, these coins didn't start in the hands of the wealthy. They started in circulation, meaning there is still a non-zero chance that one is sitting in a drawer, a safe, or a childhood coin jar passed down without anyone understanding its true value. Imagine the irony. Someone cashing in pennies for a coffee, while unknowingly holding the price of a mansion. Painful thought, isn't it? A little humorous too, because history is full of fortunes lost simply by not asking the right question at the right time. And here's that question. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not glanced. Looked. Because the market doesn't care how common a coin seems, it cares about what's wrong with it. Errors are king. Rarity is power. And condition is everything. Right now, high-end collectors are aggressively hunting premium error coins from the 1980s, especially those tied to Denver Mint production anomalies. Demand is global. Competition is intense. And the best pieces are moving quietly, often before the public even hears about them. This is where urgency matters. Markets move in cycles, but elite coins move in silence. Once a coin is certified and locked into a private collection, it may not resurface for decades, if ever. That means every year you wait is another year of shrinking opportunity. And let's be honest, you worked hard your entire life. You saved. You planned. Wouldn't it be poetic if a humble penny became the asset that rewrote your retirement story? This isn't about hype. This is about history, scarcity, and timing. The 1985 Lincoln cent is no longer just currency. It's a conversation piece, a status symbol, and in rare cases, a financial catalyst. Wealth doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer, waiting for someone wise enough to listen. Oh, here's your moment. Check your coins. Protect what you find. Get professional verification. Because the difference between 1 cent and nearly $1 million isn't luck. It's knowledge, action, and timing. And the people who move first are the ones who never have to ask, "What if?" Picture this. Somewhere in America, a quiet drawer slides open. Inside, mixed with paper clips and old receipts, sits a single copper coin. No shine. No drama. No mint mark. And yet, this exact type of coin has commanded attention at nearly $998,000 in today's market. Almost $1 million for a penny. Now let me ask you something that might make you laugh, and then immediately stop laughing. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not tossed them in a jar, not fed them to a vending machine, but truly looked. Because the 1995 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent is not just a coin. It's a silent financial opportunity hiding in plain sight, and for collectors and sellers across the United States, it has become one of the most talked about modern Lincoln penny era stories of our time. Most people believe life-changing money arrives with loud announcements, lottery tickets, stock tips, inheritance calls. But real wealth often whispers. And this penny whispers loudly to those who know how to listen. The fear is simple and real. What if you already own something valuable, and let it slip through your fingers for face value. That fear alone has driven thousands of Americans between the ages of 30 and 65 to re-examine their old coins, because this is not about luck. This is about awareness, timing, and demand. In 1995, the U.S. Mint produced millions of Lincoln cents. On the surface, nothing special. Philadelphia issues traditionally carry no mint mark, and that's where the story becomes fascinating. A small number of these pennies escape the mint with dramatic, highly sought-after error characteristics. Errors so precise, so visually striking, that elite collectors immediately recognize them as something different. This wasn't damage. This wasn't wear. This was a mistake frozen in metal at the moment of creation. Collectors don't chase ordinary coins. They chase moments when perfection failed. And the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny era represents exactly that. A failure so rare it became perfection in the eyes of the market. Coins like this have been examined, authenticated, graded, and absorbed into private collections where competition is fierce and emotions run high. When examples surface, demand doesn't ask politely, it competes aggressively. That's how prices climb into the hundreds of thousands. Here's the exciting part that most people miss. These coins were not released to collectors. They entered everyday circulation. That means they passed through hands like yours. Grocery stores, gas stations, change jars, desk drawers. And yes, maybe that old coffee can in your garage that your spouse keeps threatening to throw away. Pro tip: today is not the day to let that happen. Now let's interrupt the pattern for just a second. If I handed you a penny and said, "This could pay off your mortgage," would you laugh, or would your heart rate jump just a little? That moment, that jolt of excitement, is exactly what's driving the current surge in penny era demand. People are waking up. And when awareness rises, availability drops. The market doesn't reward hesitation. As more sellers discover what they have, elite buyers move faster. Auction houses watch closely. Private collectors position quietly. And the value doesn't wait for permission. This is why urgency matters. Not panic, precision. Those who act with confidence are the ones who benefit the most. Today, the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny era stands as a symbol of hidden wealth and modern American collecting power. It's near $998,000 market attention isn't about hype. It's about scarcity meeting desire. And desire is high. Very high. Wealthy collectors don't chase trends. They chase assets that can't be recreated. This coin cannot be remade. It cannot be mass-produced again. What exists is all there will ever be. And here's the empowering truth. You don't need to be a professional numismatist. You don't need a vault or a Wall Street background. You need curiosity, confidence, and the willingness to take your own assets seriously. The people who build wealth through rare coins aren't gamblers. They're observers. They understand that history leaves clues, and sometimes those clues are copper-colored and weigh just 2.5 grams. So, if you own old pennies, especially mid-1990s Lincoln cents with no mint mark, the smartest move isn't to dismiss them. It's to respect them. Examine them. Preserve them. And when the time is right, place them in front of the market that is actively hunting for them. Because the demand is real, the money is real, and the opportunity window does not stay open forever. Let me leave you with this thought. Wealth doesn't always come from what you earn next. Sometimes it comes from what you already own and finally recognize. Somewhere in America, another drawer is opening right now. Another penny is being lifted into the light. The only question is, will the next one be yours? Or will it stay hidden while others step into the life-changing value it carries? Stay curious. Stay alert. And remember, sometimes the smallest coin carries the biggest future.